Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. The White House announcing in-person peace talks with Iran, when and where that's going to take place, and what's in President Trump's latest message to Iran. War Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. is watching Iran's buried nuclear material and is ready to take it if need be, while General Kane emphasizes that a ceasefire is a pause. Key takeaways from the Pentagon briefing. Data shows some traffic resuming in the Strait of Hormuz after the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, but across the Gulf, Iranian drone and missile attacks are still being reported. Results are in for two elections. A Trump-backed candidate is set to serve in the U.S. House and an expanded liberal majority on Wisconsin Supreme Court. We have the results. America's Route 66 celebrates its 100th anniversary. The highway spans over 2,400 miles and boasts a variety of fun and unique stops along the way.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. A day after a critical ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, the Pentagon holding a press conference to share information from Operation Epic Fury. War Secretary Pete Hegseth saying America's military, along with Israel, achieved every single objective on plan, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one.
Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries.
Hegseth saying President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes, but he chose mercy. The War Secretary saying the president spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure, adding that the new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them. Hegseth also discussed nuclear material in Iran and what the ceasefire means for the Iranian people.
It's always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon or the capability to get a path to one. I would love to see the Iranian people take advantage of this opportunity. They have been oppressed by the previous regime, and they'll have a new opportunity with this regime. That remains to be seen. That was not our objective in this effort, but they're brave people. Horrible things have been done to them by the previous regime. Tens of thousands targeted and killed and assassinated in a way the government never should, and we wish them the best. Yeah, we'll be hanging around. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make sure Iran complies with this ceasefire and then ultimately comes to the table and makes a deal. So we'll stay put, stay ready, stay vigilant, as the chairman laid out. Our troops are prepared to defend, prepared to go on offense.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, saying the Iranian Navy now lies mostly at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf, with more than 90% of their regular fleet sunk. Kane says 95% of their naval mines are also destroyed. Meanwhile, Kane says Iran's defense industrial base has been decimated for years to come. The general saying the U.S. attacked 90% of their weapons factories and shattered their missile defense industrial base. Kane also discussed the rescue mission and emphasized that the ceasefire is still temporary.
Let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the joint force remains ready if ordered or called upon to resume combat operations with the same speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days, and we hope that that is not the case. This is a story that gets to the very heart and soul of who we are as a joint force, who we are as Americans. Selfless sacrifice in service of others. This was and is a joint force that has the guts to try, that does not quit, and who each and every day does the things that we must to dare to win. No lives were lost. We succeeded because the joint force is always at the ready.
Now, back to War Secretary Pete Hegseth. He says the Strait of Hormuz remains open, with U.S. forces closely monitoring the situation as a ceasefire with Iran takes hold. He acknowledged early confusion on the ground, saying it can take time for orders to reach all units, but said Iran would be wise to halt any remaining attacks. Hegseth added the U.S. remains prepared to respond if needed, while expressing confidence the agreement will hold. He also said strong U.S. military pressure played a key role in bringing Iran to the negotiating table. Oil markets are seeing some relief. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $95 a barrel this afternoon. That's a significant plunge from yesterday when the U.S. benchmark topped $116. But it's still well above the pre-war price. Global oil benchmark Brent crude hovered at $95 a barrel as well. AAA says regular gas is averaging $4.16 a gallon. Wall Street also opening higher, with both the Dow Jones and Nasdaq up nearly 3%. Early signs of movement are emerging in the Strait of Hormuz, a key global shipping route for oil. Ship tracking data shows that some vessels have begun transiting the waterway, including a Greek-owned and a Liberia-flagged bulk carrier. However, hundreds of oil tankers remain stalled in the region amid ongoing uncertainty. At the same time, Pakistan, which is mediating the truce, says there have been ceasefire violations in a few areas. Pakistan's leader is now urging both sides to show restraint. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the region, Kuwait says it intercepted 28 Iranian drones targeting critical infrastructure, including oil facilities and power plants. The United Arab Emirates also reports continued missile and drone activity, with air defenses actively responding. Saudi Arabia says it intercepted and destroyed 9 drones in recent hours, despite the ceasefire deal, while also voicing support for the truce. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts are continuing. Pakistan's prime minister says Iran has agreed to participate in talks in Islamabad later this week, raising hopes for further negotiations. Iran-backed militias are conducting drone strikes near Baghdad International Airport and a U.S. diplomatic support center. The U.S. Embassy warned that the groups could launch terror attacks against American citizens and allied targets throughout Iraq. Targets include diplomatic facilities, businesses, universities, hotels, and airports, among other locations. The embassy advised U.S. citizens against air travel due to the ongoing risks of missiles, drones, and motors in Iraqi airspace. Americans currently in Iraq are advised to depart the country by land. According to the U.S. Embassy, land routes to Jordan, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are open. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying this morning that Operation Epic Fury is an overwhelming victory. Joining us now is David Wormser, analyst for Middle East Affairs at the Center for Security Policy. David, good afternoon. Always great to see you. So I have a clip here of Hegseth talking about this morning. Let's just take a quick look.
Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure.
So, David, the Pentagon is declaring victory here. Has Iran been defeated?
Well, I think its military has been defeated and its government's been devastated, and the limits of its ability to even control its own territory has been exposed. It certainly can't control its airspace. And it was exposed also dramatically with the rescue operation that got back our airmen. How we were 45 minutes from one of their largest cities, 45 kilometers from one of their largest cities, set up a temporary base, and they could do nothing about it. That said, in the Middle East, there's reality and there's reality. The reality is what Americans deal with. We're very straightforward people. Their leadership is dead. Their army's destroyed. We control basically all the elements of their country, their air, their land when we want to, and their sea. But the Iranians are playing for a game of perception and narrative. And they're trying to leverage this into a victory only because they need to survive. A regime like that survives only by terror and an image of omnipotence and invincibility. And when it shows itself to be weak and defeated, that is the most dangerous point for a regime like that. So it's going overtime to try to convince people it actually won. But the danger is that it convinces itself of that when it listens to people in the United States on the left and right who really didn't want Iran to lose this war, were very much against the war, say that we lost. And they listen to Europeans and they listen to Russia and China and their propagandists around the world. The danger is they convince themselves of that. It's not the danger for us, it's the danger for them. And they think that we're entering into this ceasefire in a state of despair. And as a result, they believe that they have the upper hand over us, which will then lead to the unraveling of the ceasefire as we go forward.
Okay, so how is the Iranian regime leveraging this ceasefire then, if that's what you're saying? Is it using this to bide time? Can you just talk to us from the Iranian regime strategy point of view?
Well, they think that they have the United States over a barrel, quite literally. For example, the closing of the Straits of Hormuz, they think we really don't have an answer to it, and that we really cannot stomach high oil prices, and especially on the to the Europe and China, and the whole area of industrial capacity in the West was threatened. So they believe that they have us over a barrel, literally. They also believe that the Israelis were running out of interceptors, the Israeli Air Force was shutting down, we were running out of ammunition, et cetera, et cetera. So they feel that we don't really have the strength and the wherewithal to continue the war. So if they restart it in 2 weeks after they regroup and get back on their feet and rebalance themselves, they feel that we won't have the grit nor the wherewithal to continue to prosecute the war, and that we will eventually give in to their 10 points. The other thing is they think that we may not agree, that is, we may not even get there, because, for example, take the Lebanon issue. Lebanon is not covered by this ceasefire. Israel is attacking Lebanon. The Iranians now said, oh, we're going to close the Straits of Hormuz until Israel gives in and there's no more attacks on Lebanon. And they're trying to force a concession on that point, which the United States and Israel had adamantly refused until now. And they are trying to leverage that into a victory. That is an example of how they're going to probably overplay their hand. And this will lead to most likely to an unraveling eventually.
Okay, here's the question I have, and there's two parts here. If you say the Iranian regime's military, its defense industrial base is destroyed essentially 80 to 90%, how can it think that it has the upper hand? And number two, President Trump, I mean, it seems like, and the Pentagon said this, it was ready, locked and loaded to carry out attacks on power plants, critical infrastructure. How can the Iranian regime think that it has the upper hand?
Oh, excellent question. Look, the Iranians are, the regime is, at the end of the day, invested in Iranian culture. It's at war with the Iranian people and at war with traditional Iranian culture, but it's still staffed out by Iranians, and they think in that way. And there's really the 1001 Night cycle is really a story about how you leverage weakness to take over the soul, the narrative of your enemy, to the point where you control him. So their whole strategy is based on leveraging weakness through manipulation to take over your soul and have you defeat yourself. And that's how they think they can do this. It's not about power. It's about manipulating the mind of your enemy. And they think they've got the upper hand in that. And it's the same mistake Sinwar made, Hamas, in October 2023. If you remember, after 3-4 weeks of war, the Israelis had Hamas in a terrible position. They were retreating. They did not understand Israel would go in on the ground. They didn't understand how Israel was prepared for that ground invasion, and they were reeling. Communications were cut. They were about to collapse, and they were on their hind legs, to say the least. And so they went for a ceasefire so they could regain their footing and reestablish communications with their own units. But deep down, they felt that the fissures and the political tensions inside Israel will make it such that the Israelis cannot win this war. And once they regain it and get to the point where they can have a long-term war of attrition, the Israeli internal fissures will erupt and Israel will begin to collapse. So it was actually Hamas that restarted the war 10 days later, not Israel, even though we see the end result of it. I would see a very strong parallel here with the Iranian regime. I think they feel that a war of attrition will lead to a victory. So if they can just hold on, and they feel that between the Straits of Hormuz, their ability of the government to survive, and we will see in the next 2 weeks a tremendous slaughter of Iranians, which then does help their government survive, as well as the importing of Iraqi militias, Afghani militias, and supply from Tajikistan. So yes, they do get some gain here to regain their footing and reestablish their control over their population, which is the only thing they're afraid of at this point.
Okay, so put things into perspective for us then. If the Iranian regime thinks this is a war of attrition and it's simply waiting out this war, put things into perspective for us. How does the Iranian regime, currently compare to how it was, its abilities to do whatever you said earlier? How does it compare now to before the war?
Well, there's one other thing, which is exactly that point, which is, I'm glad you brought it up, which is the internal structure of the Iranian regime. It's in terrible shape. Its military is destroyed. They don't even know exactly the full extent of destruction that they faced. They will find out in the next few days as they take stock. But for the moment, they were so devastated, they didn't even have proper communication. So they don't even know. But the real story is so much of their leadership is dead. And I think it's so symbolic that their leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, showed up as a cardboard figure, because what he really is like one of those cardboard tent cards that we put on chairs and conferences to say this place is reserved. Nobody is really in charge, clearly, in Iran right now. And what you've got is a bunch of mafia dons who are the power structures circling around that empty chair, wondering how they make their move. And they're trying to take stock. How many of my people have been killed? How strong am I? Etc. And they're looking at the other guy across the table and wondering how many of his guys have been killed, and so forth. So what you're seeing is this dance of scorpions around an empty chair. And that is ripe for violence, and it's ripe for destabilization. So the ceasefire will expose not only how much has been destroyed in Iran, but it will also trigger, in my view, tremendous tension at the top of the Iranian regime. The Iranian people will sense that, and that could lead to something happening, which is why the regime is trying desperately now to bring in Iraqis and Afghanis.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, because Pete Hegseth today, the war secretary, also said the Iranian people, this is an opportunity for the Iranian people. What do you think that opportunity is that Hegseth says has been presented to the Iranian people to take advantage of?
Either the threat of an uprising or an actual uprising to take back their country. The problem with it is, though, that with the ceasefire, some of the things that, say, the Israelis were going to do, hovering over Tehran and taking out IRGC formations as they try to mow down demonstrators, that's going to be very difficult under a ceasefire. So I'm worried about that. And the second thing is, you bring in a lot of foreign fighters. As many fighters has been killed in Iran, the IRGC in Iran, they can bring in a lot from the outside, and that's going to be a problem. The third thing that's a real problem, by the way, I think this is the problem with the reconstruction of Iran. Iran can import stuff after this war is over, and it can rebuild much faster, or it may not even rebuild. It may simply import finished products from China and so forth to directly threaten the region. So I think the idea that it'll take them 10, 15 years to rebuild maybe their economy, but not their military threat. But it's also with the internal, with the people. On the positive side, the people themselves now maybe will have more access to the outside world, and they will begin to understand the parameters of destruction that their enemy, the Iranian regime, has faced, and that can encourage them. So there's good and bad, but I'm a bit worried that we're overestimating how much the Iranian regime is paralyzed in terms of internal repression, because it is importing fighters from the outside, will be able to freely do so now, and it is also able now to mass execute the leadership, any leadership that emerged. And I think that's what we're facing, unfortunately, in the next 2 weeks, is probably a horrific execution of prisoners and arrests and executions of non-prisoners at this point.
Okay, that's terrible to hear, but I just want to ask you one last question here. What do you think are the conditions that you see personally would be qualified as a victory for the U.S. In terms of this Iran operation?
Well, I think Pete Hegseth, and then it was echoed by Prime Minister Netanyahu, said really the crown jewel. The crown jewel is, will there or will there not be the 60% uranium in Iran or not at the end of all this? Has it been removed or has it not been removed? That is really one of the core definitions of victory. The second core definition, I think, is, did Iran lose enough of its missile force and is unable to replenish it in a way that establishes a real deterrent threat against the region that would prevent any resumption of war or attack on the nuclear program? And the third area that I think is critical is Iran able to successfully defend the survival of its proxies, specifically in this case, Hezbollah? And from what we're seeing in the last few hours in Israeli attacks on Hezbollah, that is the one thing the Iranians are making a stand on now and threatening the ceasefire today. But that is the one thing that was not given them in this. Well, it's not the one thing, but it's one of the main things that was not given them in this ceasefire, is that Israel is not covered in its war against Hezbollah and won't be, most likely. So I think right there you see those 4 areas or 3 areas are the key to defining victory. And one of them already, the Iranians are in a bind. They don't know what to do about it. And the other ones, we've said already that we will either take out the uranium by agreement or we will take it out by force, one or the other.
Okay, very good analysis, David. And don't just take it from me. I was looking at the comments in our previous interview that we did about a week ago, and the comments, the viewers are saying this as well. They think you give such great analysis. And that video a week ago from today got almost 250,000 views as well. So really appreciate it,
well,
David.
Thanks, but it's an honor being on your program. It's an honor being on your channel. It's one of the best out there.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. The White House announcing that in-person peace talks with Iran will happen this weekend in Islamabad. Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner will lead the negotiation team. The administration is also disputing media reports about terms of the temporary ceasefire that are now under review.
Oh, he doesn't have a plan. I have the best plan of all, but I'm not going to tell you what my plan is yet.
The press secretary says media has been falsely reporting that the U.S. accepted Iran's 10-point plan. Instead, Levitt says the plan was, quote, thrown in the garbage by President Trump. And the president is now reviewing a more reasonable plan that Iran later put forward.
The president's maximum pressure and the leverage created by the success of Operation Epic Fury led to the Iranian regime asking for and ultimately agreeing to a ceasefire proposal with the United States. Iran could no longer tolerate being bombed or taking the gamble of what was to come following President Trump's 8 p.m. deadline last night. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, and as the president said, we have received a proposal from the Iranians that has been determined to be a workable basis on which to negotiate.
President Trump posting this morning on Truth Social that there will be no enrichment of uranium and the United States will working with Iran dig up and remove all of the deeply buried nuclear dust. The president also announcing that any country supplying military weapons to Iran will immediately face a 50% tariff from the U.S. Both China and Russia have helped Iran build its military capability. Meanwhile, the U.S. of the pauses of strikes on Iran for 2 weeks is contingent on Iran reopening the Strait of Hormuz. The president today floating the idea of a U.S.-Iranian joint toll system for the key waterway. The White House disputing reporting that Iran has closed the strait in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon amid the ceasefire. Instead, it says they expect the strait to be opened immediately.
Iran says publicly or feeds to all of you in the press is much different than what they communicate to the United States, the president, and his team privately. Never underestimate President Trump's ability to successfully advance America's interests and broker peace. President Trump has a proven track record of achieving good deals on behalf of the United States and the American people, and he will only accept one that puts America first.
Later today, President Trump is meeting with the NATO Secretary General. He's just issued a statement, though, criticizing NATO allies for, quote, turning their backs on the American people during the Iran war, adding that they were tested and they failed. Results are in for 2 elections. A candidate backed by President Trump is said to serve in the U.S. House and an expanded liberal majority on Wisconsin's Supreme Court. More after this break in just a moment. Stay with us.
Absolutely perfection.
Hands down, the best show I've ever seen.
I almost cried like 8 times.
I don't think anybody realizes how good this show is until you actually get into the theater and see it.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
It fills the cup with joy.
Could not get enough of it.
You have to come see it. It's a must-see. Must-see.
Returns to David Koch Theater, March 25th through April 12th. Get your tickets at shenyun.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Seymour, and I spent years on TV playing a doctor. But I learned about the heartbreaking reality of heart disease and stroke when they touched my own life. My father nearly died before having a quadruple bypass and valve replacement that saved him. And my mom, who was my inspiration, suffered a stroke that took away her speech, her ability to move, and ultimately her life. To see someone so vibrant, so positive, who'd survived so much in life, be debilitated by a stroke, it was devastating, and also a wake-up call. And that's why I'm so passionate about supporting the American Heart Association. They're doing more every day to stop needless deaths. But they simply can't do their life-saving work without you. So please call now or go to helpheart.org. And for only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your donation will go to work to do amazing things, like fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I hope that you'll open your heart right now and join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org, give $19 a month, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show that you're part of a community of monthly donors who are helping save lives. A healthy heart is the spirit of life. It makes it possible to do the things that you love, to spend time with your friends and family and fulfill your life's dreams. But so many won't have that chance. Heart disease is America's #1 killer and the #1 killer of women. And that's why I'll do whatever I can to make sure others don't die from heart disease before their time. So please join me. Call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Looking to refresh the style in your house? Come to Mathis Home during the Spring Style event and see hundreds of options for your perfect living room. Take a look at this sectional. We can help you build it into the style you want. From sleek and modern to something more eclectic to an updated traditional look. You can also reconfigure it just by adding or removing pieces. The sofa version is a great value at just $12.89. Come find the look that's right for you at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Results are in for two key elections, one to replace former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia and another for a seat on Wisconsin's Supreme Court. NTD's Melina Weiskup has the results.
Georgia voters have elected Clay Fuller, a district attorney, to serve in Congress.
If you need to see any proof that God guides everything in this country, all you have to do is look at the man that is standing on this stage right now. And it's not because we had a huge victory tonight, because we had a huge victory tonight. But it is because I'm an absolute miracle to be above ground at this point.
The congressman-elect says a diagnosis of thyroid cancer was a wake-up call from God. President Trump endorsed Clay Fuller, who won nearly 56% of the vote, though his opponent said the race showed progress for Democrats in the Ruby Red district.
The Republican Party had to spend almost $2 million in a smear campaign to get this win. They should never have to spend money on a Ruby Red district. That tells you that things are changing here in Northwest Georgia.
Harris conceded the race Tuesday night. Fuller will fill the seat of retired Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene until the end of this year, but will have only 1 month off the campaign trail. Fuller will have to run in another Republican primary in May to secure a full 2-year term. Nevertheless, the win will help cushion the bare-bones Republican majority in the House. House Speaker Mike Johnson quick to congratulate Fuller to continue delivering results and saving America.
Now, the Democrat Party poured millions of dollars into this campaign, poured lies into this campaign, but they can't beat Donald Trump, and they never will. And I will be on Capitol Hill as a warrior to have his back each and every day.
In a separate election in Wisconsin, Supreme Court candidate Chris Taylor defeated conservative-backed Maria Lazar. Lazar called Taylor to concede the race.
Know that your votes were not cast in vain, and that you did set a mark and draw a line and say, Wisconsin deserves better. And I'm hopeful in future years that will happen.
Taylor's win will expand and secure the court's liberal majority until at least 2030.
People are hungry for a judiciary that prioritizes them, that protects our rights, that affords all Wisconsinites equal justice under the law.
Her campaign largely centered on abortion access. Taylor previously served as a policy director for Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin.
Vice President J.D. Vance is weighing in on the U.S.-Iran ceasefire. He says if Iran is willing to negotiate with the U.S. in good faith, then an agreement to end the conflict is possible. Here's Vance speaking at a Hungarian university this morning.
The President of the United States has told me, and he's told the entire negotiating team, the Secretary of State, the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, he said, go and work in good faith to come to an agreement. That is what he has told us to do. If the Iranians are willing in good faith to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. Because what the president has also shown is that we still have clear military, diplomatic, and maybe most importantly, we have extraordinary economic leverage. So the president has told us not to use those tools. He's told us to come to the negotiating table. But if the Iranians don't do the exact same thing, they're going to find out that the president of the United States is not one to mess around. He's impatient. He's impatient to make progress. He has told us to negotiate in good faith. And I think if they negotiate in good faith, we will be able to find a deal. But that's a big if. And ultimately, it's up to the Iranians how they negotiate. I hope they make the right decision.
The vice president is finishing his 2-day visit to Budapest. That's in a show of support for Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban ahead of Sunday's election. Reactions are pouring in from around the world to the U.S. and Iran ceasefire announcement. World leaders welcoming the pause in fighting.
This is very positive, and we hope that it leads to a permanent de-escalation and an end to the conflict and a resolution that allows the world to go forward.
We are welcoming the US and Iran's announcement as a positive development.
It is indeed through negotiation that we can provide the security guarantees necessary for stability throughout the region. Therefore, the announcement of this ceasefire is very good news.
The ceasefire is being watched closely in the Gulf, with Oman's foreign ministry saying it welcomes the announcement. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying we must do all we can to sustain the ceasefire and turn it into a lasting agreement and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. French President Emmanuel Macron is calling for Lebanon's inclusion in all discussions about the ceasefire. The U.S. declaring victory as a 2-week truce has been reached in the Iran war. Joining us now is Cheyenne Sami, national security and Middle East analyst. So good afternoon, Cheyenne. Can I just ask you, so the U.S. and Iran has agreed to a 2-week pause. What comes next?
Hi, Don. Thanks for having me. Well, what comes next is ambiguity, because right now it is quite evident that the 10-point plan or proposal that the Islamic regime has sent out is not in sync with the U.S. 15-point plan. One of the major aspects is that the Iranian side is asking the U.S. to guarantee a non-aggression, Iran to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's right to enrich uranium, and in the Farsi text that they published is they are advocating for acceptance of Iran's right to enrich. And then lifting of all primary and secondary sanctions, termination of all UN Security Council resolutions against Iran, cancellation of IAEA resolutions, compensation for war damage, withdrawal of U.S. military, end to attacks on Iran's allies, especially in Lebanon, and a UN Security Council resolution making any deal binding. None of that is acceptable to the U.S. government or the Israeli government, for that matter. Now, the world leaders that you were showing a while back and that they were celebrating this so-called ceasefire, well, of course, they're only concerned about the Strait of Hormuz and their ability to have oil and their goods going and coming. They're not worried about the people of Iran, and they're not concerned about the aftermath of this regime staying in power and then being able to kill at will, as they have done. They have, even in the lead up to the ceasefire, they executed 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, and there's a 20-year-old female that they're going to execute. So the biggest benefactor of this ceasefire has been the government of China, that will receive their cheap oil from the Islamic Republic, and the Europeans, who decided to stay this one out.
Okay, so you're saying that this ceasefire likely won't lead to any durable peace, and that it's only a means for Iran to buy time. Is that what you're saying?
I'm afraid, yes, that's exactly what it is. Because first and foremost, this ceasefire is slated for a 2-week period, but I don't even foresee that it will last for 72 hours. Why? Because the Islamic Republic has already started attacking the neighboring countries. They have lobbed missiles against Kuwait, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, and they have also been lobbing missiles toward Israel. So they are doing what they want to do. They just want to buy time to basically regroup. I understand the United States government also wants to refocus, recalibrate, and get ready for the next phase. But I think the mere fact of talking about a 10-point plan versus a 15-point plan, that none of them are in sync and none of them jive well with what the U.S. government has stated, goes forward. And on top of all of that, this ceasefire does not take into action human rights violations in Iran against the people, the innocent people of Iran. And that is something that the world leaders must pay attention to. And unfortunately, it's not on their agenda right now.
Okay, can I just ask you, by your assessment, how much has the Iranian regime been weakened since the start of the war? Because the Pentagon today declaring victory and saying over, I think, 13,000 targets in Iran has been struck. So how much has the Iranian regime right now been weakened?
The regime has been weakened, Don. That's not a lost factor in anybody's mind. First of all, they lost their supreme leader. The next guy that they have said has been elected or selected, whichever one you want to name it, is nowhere to be seen. Nobody has seen even a picture of him. Nobody has heard his voice. So he doesn't exist. The next level, the president is a persona non grata within the Iranian apparatus. And right now, there is the chief of the IRGC, the militia group, and the chief of the parliament, the speaker of the parliament, and the two of them also do not see eye to eye on everything. And then there is a bunch of militia groups on the side that even if there is anybody within the Iranian system who wants to talk about normalizing relations with the West and with the United States, they will shoot them down. So the regime has been definitely weakened. There has been plenty of their capabilities, command and control, leadership, and military apparatus that has been destroyed. But the mere fact that the Secretary of War in the United States and the President of the United States continuously talk about this idea of regime change has not occurred in Iran, because regime change in a political parlance means a new government, a new constitution, a new system of governance. But in the Islamic Republic, nothing has changed. So only just a few people have been killed and a few people have been replaced. The only way that you can resolve the conflict with the number one state sponsor of terrorism in the region is to remove the entirety of the government, top to bottom, left and right, so that the people can actually develop a new governance, a new constitution, and a new system to lead them.
Okay, so to your point then, how do we get rid of the government entirely? How do we do that, top to bottom, left to right?
The best way to do it is to, number one, continue the targeted attacks against the leadership, the top tier leadership, and eliminate them one by one. Continue to control the methods of economic viability for the regime, which is controlling the Kharg Island in the west and basically the oil terminals there, and then also controlling the islands that lead to the Strait of Hormuz, namely the Qeshm, Larak, and Abu Musa islands, so that you can control the Strait of Hormuz and not anybody can come and circumnavigate your presence there. And then the United States can also move into the areas of air defense systems that the Islamic Republic has been hiding in the southern region of the country, and then also to have a plan to remove the enriched uranium from the Iranian soil. That way, the Iranian government will not have any means of political survival, military survival, or economic survival. That would be the end, and that would basically lead them to a surrender.
Okay, so what you're saying, does that require physical U.S. troops on the ground, or is airstrikes enough to achieve your goals that you just described?
Airstrikes will do the job done, but having boots on the ground will facilitate and solidify the opportunity. Right now, the Arab nations in the Persian Gulf region, they are upset enough with the Islamic Republic that they are willing to join the U.S. in its military campaign. How? They would provide aerial support and the U.S. boots on the ground, because they have the know-how and they can go and grab the enriched uranium. They can facilitate this. So air support is needed. Ground support is a viable and the best solution to capture the necessary areas and the necessary evil doing by the Islamic Republic, so that the people of Iran can also, with the targeted attacks on the leadership in the capital city, perhaps by Israel, then the people can come out in the street and take the matter to their own hands.
Okay, Cheyenne, I just have a couple more questions. You've been very clear so far. Just a few more, but the main part of the ceasefire was opening the Strait of Hormuz, right? So let me ask you a question on that. Do you think Iran has the ability to block passage in the waterway in the long term? We're talking years here. Does Iran have the ability to do that?
done. They can only threaten by mining the sea. And let's not forget that the Strait of Hormuz, land to land, is about 20 miles, but the area that is viable for major tankers and major ships to pass by is about a 2.5-mile radius. So, and there is one lane for outgoing, one lane for incoming. So it is a very narrow passageway, and the Islamic Republic is trying to continue having its speedboats that the IRGC owns in the region to control it. But it is not an option. The United States and the world should not allow the Islamic Republic to retain control of the Strait of Hormuz. And they are now talking about charging a passage fee of $2 million per ship that to be split with Oman. Now, that $1 million, where is that going to go? In the coffers of the Islamic regime to create more bombs and lob against neighboring countries or Israel, or to actually buy more weaponry to kill their own citizens? So that is one of the areas that needs to be carefully investigated. And the world, this one time, needs to come together and wrest control of the Strait of Hormuz from the Iranian government and basically landed in some international organization's hand, so nobody can block the passageway going into the future.
Okay, maybe just last question here. Yesterday, Russia and China blocking a UN resolution to protect the strait. Can you just talk to us about what has been China's role in this? What does the gesture yesterday mean to you?
Well, yesterday's gesture just means that China is telling its stooge in the region, the Islamic regime, that, hey, I'm holding the line here and I'm supporting you, but you also need to come through. You also need to let the ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz because I need my cheap oil and I need it fast. And in fact, reports have been that the U.S. vice president and Chinese officials were talking to each other. And then the Chinese officials were the ones who pretty much drilled it into the Iranian leadership's head that this is the best course of action right now, or else we are not going to be able to support you at the UN Security Council anymore. In this process, Russia has been the biggest benefactor. Why? Because the focus has been shifted away from the Ukraine war. Russia has been able to do what it wants. And in this process, Russia has also told the Islamic regime, you do my bidding and I will just hold your back at the UN Security Council. But that is also going to come to an end. And if the world helps removing the number one state sponsor of terrorism, which is the Islamic regime in Tehran, then all focus could be shifted toward the war in between Russia and Ukraine and help the people of Ukraine celebrate victory.
Okay, very clear analysis today. Thank you for giving us your time today, Cheyenne.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Some traffic reported in the Strait of Hormuz on day one of the ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran, what the White House says about reopening the critical waterway. More news after this. Don't go away.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
What if kids in America didn't have to go to bed hungry tonight? What if our moms, dads, and grandparents could put healthy food on the table every day to help us grow strong? What if all of our friends and neighbors had fresh food too, and there was no hunger at all in America? And what if there was a way today for you to help? Call now or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. So many of us don't have enough food to eat, but your monthly gift means families across the country and in your community can fill plates with food. Kids can get healthy meals year-round, even when school's out, and our neighbors can have fresh food. Food that moms, dads, entire families need to thrive. But right now, more people are facing hunger. Feeding America works from coast to coast with partner food banks, food pantries, and meal programs. It takes all of us to make that happen. Will you help too? Please call the number on your screen or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org and give just $19 a month, and we'll send you this free canvas grocery bag. It's our way of saying thank you for helping to end hunger for our neighbors. Because no kid, no mom or dad, nobody should go hungry in America. Nobody. So what if today was the day you could help nourish futures for our friends, our families, for all of us? Ending hunger is possible. What if we end it together? Call or give online today at helpfeedingamerica.org and your gift can be doubled. Thank you.
The White House responding to an Iranian media report that Iran is halting traffic in the Strait of Hormuz over Israeli strikes in Lebanon.
With respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly, and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
President Trump has stated that the two-week ceasefire is subject to the free, safe, and immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz without any limitation, including tolls. Meanwhile, the president today floating the idea of a U.S.-Iranian joint toll system for the key waterway. The state of Idaho is partnering up with Turning Point USA, or TPUSA. Idaho Governor Brad Little says as the 250th anniversary of the country approaches, it's a time to reflect on what made this country great.
I often quote one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin, and his famous statement, what he said outside of when they wrote the Constitution about Dr. Franklin, what did you give us? And he says, a republic if you can keep it. Turning Point, your presence here is part of that process of keeping the republic. It is the most duplicated system in the world, one of the most challenging systems in the world, and so it's incredibly important that everyone, but particularly our youth, understand it, how it works.
The partnership will open Club America chapters in every high school in Idaho. Club America is an initiative by TPUSA that serves to restore civics and patriotism in high schools. These high school chapters will educate students on core American values such as freedom and constitutional rights. TPUSA says it's Charlie Kirk's goal to have a Club America chapter in every high school in America. They say the partnership with Idaho today not only carries out his legacy, but also preserves the legacy of America. NASA's Artemis II crew is wowing the nation as it continues its lunar flyby mission. However, a fifth crew member is playing their own critical role aboard the Orion spacecraft. A plush toy named Rise is the official mascot of the Artemis II mission. The name comes from the iconic Earthrise photo taken during the Apollo 8 mission in 1968. California second grader Lucas E. designed the toy used as a zero-gravity indicator, which has been accompanying the Artemis II crew on its journey around the moon. NASA picked Ye's design from more than 2,600 submissions. After winning the contest, the 8-year-old had the opportunity to watch the Artemis II launch from the Kennedy Space Center. The crew, including Rise, is set to splash down on the Pacific Ocean on Friday. America's Route 66 is celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. The highway spans more than 2,400 miles and boasts a variety of fun and unique stops along the way. NTD's Andrew Thomas has some of the highlights.
America's famous Route 66. As the highway celebrates 100 years, travelers are hitting the road to mark the occasion. Visitors stopping in Oatman, Arizona can get a chance to enjoy the town's famous wild donkeys.
They tear things up, they torment, they do a lot of damage to things, but at the same time, they are awesome. We love our burros. We look out for them.
Route 66 passes through Springfield, Illinois, home of the famous Cozy Dog. Here, diners can get a taste of the establishment's corn dogs, a recipe that dates back to 1946. Third-generation owner Josh Waldmeyer shows how it's done.
Now we can dip them down, swirl them around, and get a nice even coating on the hot dog. Get a little shake, and take them out. Take care of our tails, and I put it down in the oil.
Travelers looking to catch a movie can stop at Teepee Drive-In Theater in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. Owner Scott says the Route 66 Drive-In offers a little slice of Americana.
You know, there's not a lot of these in the United States, so we want to make it family-friendly, fun, exciting.
The highway stretches from Chicago all the way to Santa Monica, California, and there's plenty of ways for road trippers to get their kicks on Route 66. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A piece of the Eiffel Tower could be yours. Part of its original staircase is going up for auction next month. It's the section that's connected the second and third floors when the tower opened in 1889. The piece measures about 9 feet high and 6 in diameter. Art Curial's Art Deco department in Paris is auctioning it off. Its website estimates the staircase section will fetch up to $175,000. The Eiffel Tower underwent an overhaul in 1983 that involved the removal of some stairs. A ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran reached at the 11th hour. We'll speak with Jacob Olidord on what this deal means for U.S. strategy and whether Iran can be trusted moving forward. Then a former U.S. Army Black Hawk pilot breaks down what this pause means for troops' military readiness and what comes next on the ground. So stay with us.
Performance that truly matters for each and every one of us. This is what you've been waiting for. See it at least once in your lifetime. Shen Yun. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure in my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. And a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer. And your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor during February Heart Month, and your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Our spring style event is going on now, with hundreds of options for your new dining room.